Can you speak to the hostage rescue and where we're at? And I had some numbers here. I know you quoted them, but just to give people an idea, 1,200 people killed during that October 7th, most of those being civilians. You mentioned the kibbutz, which is just an area that they live, the civilian population, housing, whatever. 4,800 injured, and then 246 kidnapped was the stats that I have off of there. I know some of them have been released, but they still have something like 130 left. Can you tell us where that process is at with the hostages?
Yeah. You see my shirts, and actually,
okay.
It said, "Bring them home now." There were more than 420. There was one deal with the Hamas after the IDF pressed the Hamas. So there was some kind of ceasefire for about 3 weeks, and we released about half of them. But this was about 54 days after the event, after October 7. Since then, the Hamas refused to any exchange or any deal. And you have to remember, these are civilians that kidnapped and took from their home, from their beds, from the age of 84 to the age of infant which was 9 months old, by the name of Kfir Bibas, when he was taken by the Hamas. He was celebrating his first birthday in the Hamas hand. So this is the people that we are dealing with.
And Bibas is a political guy over there, or what was his tie to Israel?
No. The Bibas family was one of the families in the kibbutzim.
Okay, gotcha.
And,
I just heard their name. So.
And very famous because there are two beautiful boys in the age of 4 and the age of 9 months, two redheads.
Okay.
And the IDF succeeded with quite intelligence efforts to locate some of the hostages that was killed by the Hamas and bring their bodies back. And just a week ago, we succeeded to actually release 2 of the hostages that was kept by the Hamas in the vicinity of Rafah in the south of Gaza. And all the others are still there. There is some kind of dialogue now, and probably they're coming back to the table around in Paris in these coming days, and we'll see what's going on.
Okay. Moving forward, I know that they were talking, I was reading a news article that was talking about preparing to go into a specific city group. I think that was...
Rafah?
Yes, Rafah. Yeah. And that's obviously they're going to have targets there with Hamas. So can you speak to like just what's next on the table for their plan? And then we talked a little bit about last night, and I don't want to get into like a 2-hour subject matter, but when you're going after these guys and trying to figure out how to eradicate them to keep this from happening again, you have other countries that support terrorism that are connected to them, and maybe you can unpack that with Hezbollah and Iran, and maybe what's going on to the north of you, if you want to speak to that.
Okay, so on the ground at the moment, there's some kind of a hot pursuit that's going in the town of Khan Yunis, which was the main headquarters of the Hamas. This is the town of the leader of the Hamas, Sinwar. And in the area of Rafah, most of the 1.2 million people from Gaza evacuated by the IDF over there. And in my point of view, we will have to deal with Rafah in some way, probably in some kind of a unique program that will move these people somewhere else next to Rafah and let us deal with those we need to deal with. And following to what I said, that the Israel is doing their best not to harm civilians, it probably will happen only when we have full, clear program how you do it without harming any civilians. Regarding the Iranian, let's go up from the level of Gaza.
Okay.
The Iranians have their fingers everywhere. They are like an octopus, and they are the main first country that cause instability in all the region. They support and finance and train the Hamas in Gaza. The same thing goes for the Hezbollah in the north border of Israel in Lebanon, which they control the southern part of Lebanon. Same thing goes in Yemen, the rebels that's called the Houthis. These are the guys that destroy part of the Saudi Arabia oil industry 2 years ago, equipped and trained by the Iranian. Same thing as those pro-Iranian militia in Iraq. So we see them all over, and their main goal is to create a mess all over the area. And the idea of the multiply fronts was their idea against Israel. So we can deal with this challenge, but the other challenge that is their nuclear ability that they're moving ahead, and in my point of view, the Iranians are about between 3 to 4 months of breakthrough nuclear bomb, and it's not a technical decision; it's just a political, diplomatic decision of them. And I think this is something that the whole Western world need to deal with it in some kind of a coalition, as the UN now recruit the British and others to deal with those rebels in Yemen that actually harm the world trade naval routes in the Red Sea. Same thing, I think that they need to deal with the threat of nuclear facility in Iran.
Can you explain to people that may not know the connection between Hezbollah and Hamas? Are they buddies, or they have the same mission set, or they have a division there? And how does Hezbollah get involved when Hamas is the one they're fighting? Maybe talk to that.
They are actually the same.
Okay.
Actually the same. I would say even that the Hezbollah are much more well-trained and much more combat experienced, because they took place when the civil war in Syria. So they are much more equipped and much more trained. They have much more accurate rockets and ability to harm the home front in Israel. And the idea is the same, is to challenge Israel with a multiple front. And what they did actually when the war in Gaza started, they start to shell and bomb the north part of Israel just to get our attention over there too. So in the last 4 months, there's some kind of dialogue by fire between us and between the Hezbollah, and about 60,000 Israelis was evacuated along the northern border for the last 4 months. And in the end of the day, the Hezbollah will have to be removed from there. At the moment, it's done by hitting very quality targets of Hezbollah at the southern part of Lebanon. In parallel to that, there's some kind of a diplomatic efforts by the Americans and by the French to get Hezbollah withdrawal to fulfill the UN 1701 decision, which they're supposed to be deployed only from the Litani River, which is about 10 to 15 miles from Israel border, and by that way take them out from their fire range. I hope this is how it's ended. If not, we'll have to deal with it in a military way, because the situation that was there until October 7, when they are on the border, cannot continue anymore.
Yeah. All right.
I'm going to ask a question concerning the casualties in Gaza. So you were talking about battalions, and 17 out of 24. So can you tell everybody
Numbers?
Yeah, numbers for a battalion.
We talk about 30 to 34,000 Hamas terrorists in Gaza, and the Palestinian Hamas Authority talk about 28,000 people in Gaza that killed. Mm-hmm. I'll quote the Wall Street Journal, which is quite accurate, by saying that the Wall Street Journal said that about 20,000 of them are actually Hamas terrorists, right, with blood on their hands. and we'll continue to target them, and we continue to do this very, very challenging military operation, trying to separate between innocent civilians and those terrorists, because fighting the Hamas is actually fighting the war of the Western world.
Right. So when you're talking about battalions, you're talking about a little bit over 1,000 men in a battalion?
More than that.
More than that? Okay. And so the battalions were destroyed, but not everyone in the battalion was taken out?
No, in all those areas in Gaza that we disassembled their military ability and the command and control ability, which is important. So we have those kind of one operation, one separate operation, or some kind of a small squad of 2 or 3 terrorists that try to harm the IDF, but they are not functioning anymore as a military frame.
Right.
And what the Hamas did, they spread their ammunition and rockets and explosive devices and weapons and rockets all over Gaza. So, for example, they don't need to carry their weapons in the street. They can just be dressed like me and you as a civilian and going into the house next door and know where the weapons are and try to harm the Israeli troops.
So these weapons are stocked in the homes of the Palestinians?
There was no any mosque or hospital or school that wasn't used by the Hamas and have opening piers of tunnels, rockets, ammunition, explosive devices. Just under the headquarters of UNRWA, we found a huge servers farm of the command and control of the Hamas. So
You're talking about computer.
Yeah, computer. So very, very cynically, they use all those civilians' facilities, and even in their interrogation, they said, we know that you won't go into the hospital, for example, so this is why we built all those in the hospitals, and whatever hospital we enter in, very carefully, not harm the medical staff and not harm the people that really need to be there. We found terrorists, we found infrastructure, we found everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Very cynically.
Yeah, just amazing. You know, I know that Hamas was firing from hospitals,
Yeah.
firing from the public schools and the rockets
Yeah.
into Israel.
By that way, they thought that they will be protected.
Right. Yeah.
So there was one of those I actually followed, and when it came out, it said that Israel fired on a hospital. And
And then it's tend to be that it's a false launching of Hamas.
And so what happens is they report it as Israel launches at hospital, kills civilians.
Yeah.
Then what happens is they actually found the audio communications recording of the Hamas fighters,
Which said, oops.
which said, oops, on the radio, did we just fire at the hospital?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, I think that was us. And do you think the follow-up on that, the correction of those stories got to the populace? No, they put their story out.
They don't get any follow-up.
Right. And just to be
Because
clear.
it doesn't fit the agenda of some of the largest communication media,
Right.
like the BBC and others. So,
And just to be clear about what you're talking about, because I think this is very important. We spoke to the fact when Egypt was in control, they had checkpoints. They didn't allow them in. There was these control tactics because of the situation. You mentioned that Hamas is shooting civilians trying to leave because they're using those in the tactics they have for the war.
That's right.
And then the tactics that they are using is hospitals, schools, places where civilians are, to use them as shields, as cover, as ways to navigate and blend in. And then at the same time, you have to fight them in that environment.
And separate between civilians and
Right.
those terrorists.
Right.
And you have all this, what we call the Palestinian Bollywood industry, which they fake casualties with makeup and some red colors. And here and there we see this covered stories, and then it tend to be that nobody's harmed over there. I got beautiful drone photos taken of one of the funerals of the Palestinian that they see some few people carried some dead body which wrapped with whites. And then when the drones goes down, the guys became very scary, so they put the screeches on the ground, and suddenly the body was wake up, resurrection, and running away. So they fake all those casualties from time to time. I don't say that there's no casualties. This is a war to my sorrow.
Yeah.
But they using very cynically every facility and every way to harm Israel. Just recently, very funny. They were complained that we break the ceasefire. You see?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that in the largest hospital in Gaza,
Shifa.
It was connected to the tunnels. Was UNRWA connected to the tunnels also?
Of course. As I told you, the main servers farm of computers of the Hamas is under one of the hospital, and all the power coming just down from the hospital. At the Shifa hospital, the one that you spoke about, we found tunnels, we found equipment, we found a gear that belonged to some of the Israeli hostages that was kidnapped and holding over there, just under the hospital.
So UNRWA was connected by tunnels to the tunnels? Do you know? It was.
Yeah. But
so these terrorists are going through tunnels, going through the UNRWA building,
Yeah.
going into the tunnels, going through hospitals, going into the tunnels,
and doing what they need to do.
going through schools, going into the tunnels.
Yeah, we found
Amazing.
12 UNRWA members that actually actively participate the massacre in October 7 with photos connecting everyone.
And those were the only ones, because all the rest of
Of
them were
course,
just
they
lily
weren't only the only one, but now some countries, including the United States, stopped their financing of UNRWA. And I remind you that the United States is the main finance of UNRWA, about $340 million every year. This support stopped, and I hope it will continue that way. And you need to change all this organization and all the effective of how to really help the people of Gaza, because these are the people that educate the Gaza schoolboys, for example. And if they are educate them with these values of murder and destruction from the age of 3, the kindergarten and up, there won't be any change in Gaza.
Right. So you're talking about the curriculum that's used there is anti-Semitic and
anti-Israeli,
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
If you see a video of a 2 or 3 years old boy or girl in the kindergarten celebrate by put him on explosive belt, etc., then you get the idea. By the way, we found some documents that show that some of the teachers in UNRWA schools were Hamas members, and the Hamas orders are to let them free from their school because they have the Hamas activity, and this is no negotiate. So these are the people that educate the children in Gaza.
All right. Avi, can you speak to what the Israeli outlook is on the situation? Like, I wrote down current world climate tensions regarding anti-Semitism and pro-Palestinian groups, but specifically the vibe that I get in my little world here in America is I know a little bit about Benjamin Netanyahu. Every time he speaks, he talks, well, not every time, but his attitude towards this is he'll say things like never again, there will not be another Holocaust. And so he's very active in his approach towards Iran, not getting a nuclear weapon. And he's not sitting back waiting for stuff to happen. He wants to put this on the front, right? But now we have a situation where, to your words, one of the worst if not the worst, attacks since Israel was a state in 1948.
Yes, you're right.
And weird stuff going on around the world. We could bring in Ukraine and Russia, which is an ally to Iran, and China, who's doing different things. They're doing a drone war over there, and they're all supplying each other and stuff like that you talked about last night. And then you have Hezbollah, which I don't know how much they're planning with Hamas to make this a coordinated effort and ramp it up as you go. But all that to say, what is the Israeli view looking at this, where you're at now, the fact that you have a Holocaust attitude moving forward? Like, what's the mind and heart of an Israeli right now?
Well, first of all, I think that most of the Israelis have their state of mind that regarding the Holocaust, never again. Never again, but what's happened in October 7 was some kind of a massacre, which was some kind of deep failure of the Israeli IDF, intelligently and operationally. But at the same time, it doesn't reduce nothing from the cruel and the terrible ideas of doing what they did over there. And I think most of the Israelis agree that you have to deal with the Hamas once and for all and disassemble his military abilities. People won't go back to live just next to the border if this won't be achieved.
Sure.
And I think people are very determined to reach this goal. I think I can say that the Israelis shifting from left to center or from
Okay.
center to right.
Is that, not to cut you off, but is that in Netanyahu's camp, or is he more right?
No, that will be in Netanyahu camp.
Okay.
We won't deal with Netanyahu now, but generally speaking, I think that the left wing of the Israeli woke up after this terrible
Gotcha.
attack from his
Yeah.
dreams of peace and harmony.
It's amazing how that works when reality sets in, you know?
Yeah, life is happened to you. Life is what's happened to you when you do other plans, John Lennon said once.